Now, we are in this current AI boom. It is the dominant narrative in the news, and not just the business news, but all kinds of other social and cultural news. Partly because the media likes to frighten people, and it's easy to keep pushing the idea that AI is going to take away 40% or 50% of jobs or whatever. But this recent AI boom, driven by ChatGPT and then a whole bunch of other large language model-based chatbots and tools, is also very hyped up, so it's important to look at what really is working and what still remains fiction. In the last 20 months or so since ChatGPT, we have gotten the ability to write letters and other text-based items, articles, much faster than before. It's also very easy to generate images now. If you've noticed, the thumbnails on this channel are these AI-generated images, which I do myself. I don't have to worry about copyright and other complexities with that. I used to pay for a subscription that had all these stock photo images and video clips that I can use, but the selection was not that great and it was still expensive to some degree. At a B2B level, these higher quality photos from Getty Images, if you look at the prices on Getty Images, it's $400 to $500 just for the rights to use an image. That could make sense from a B2B perspective, like if an article in The Economist or in Reuters needs to use a professional photograph, fine, it may be cost effective for them to pay for that. But for any small creator, like a blogger or YouTuber, that is completely out of the question. But with AI, we don't need that anymore because it's very easy to generate high quality AI images that in some ways are better. And I own the copyright to those. Soon I'm going to be publishing a slideshow of 1,000 AI images that I have generated. Okay, so image generation, text generation, certain types of sorting, yes, AI has been able to do that much better. But if I were to make an AI wish list, there are 3 areas in which AI could improve the lives of almost all people substantially, where we're not seeing much progress yet. And maybe progress will happen in the near future, but at the moment there has been no progress whatsoever at all. And I'll list what these 3 areas are on an AI wish list. One is job search. If you look at this video up here, I describe how technology has failed humans in this one area because it takes longer to get a job now than it did in the 1980s, 40 years ago, when you could merely fax your resume to an employer. Why? Because there were too few people faxing resumes, so the employer only had 2 to 3 candidates for each position and had to make a decision quickly. Now there's such a barrage of resumes being sent and so many recs that are false because people are researching the company and they have to believe that the company is doing well, and the company wants to scare its existing employees by showing a lot of recs, indicating that those employees could be easily replaced and so forth. So the equation has become lopsided, and it is taking longer to get a job than it took 40 years ago, despite everything else being much faster. If you want to research a subject, it now just takes minutes versus half a day in the 1980s when you had to go to the public library, including driving back and forth from the public library, that too when the library was open, and that too if you lived in a country that had good public libraries, of which there were very few. Most countries in the world still do not have good public libraries, and in the 1980s that was even more true. Now you can research a lot of general academic subjects in a very short time. So the efficiency of looking things up and researching them is easily 10, 20, 30, 50 times faster than before. But a job search is not. When AI should be able to fix this problem. An AI should notice the gaps in a company's operations, which is usually a very manual process in a pre-AI world. The hiring manager notices for 2 months or more that they have a gap, and they may want to hire someone, and then they have to get approval from their upper management and then give the requisition to human resources, who then manages the recruitment process. And then they interview people for many months, and the whole thing is many, many, many months long. Instead, AI should be able to identify this gap right away, look for candidates who are open to joining, and then match that up with candidates who are known to be looking for a job, and then give a score, give a compatibility score to the employer. This candidate might be 88% compatible, this candidate might be 92% compatible, but this 88% compatible person is willing to join now and is willing to accept this lower salary versus this 92% compatible one. So that whole process should take merely hours, at most a day. There should be a robust enough AI engine that it helps the employer determine this with confidence and say, well, the AI engine says 92% compatibility. We don't need to go through the whole process of interviewing this person to an excessive degree, have 12 people interview this person even though none of them really know how to interview very well. The AI decided 92% compatibility. Let's do it. That is the future we should be in right now, because then recessions would be fewer and shorter, just because half of the problem with a recession is that companies lay people off, they become risk averse too late in the process, and they're slow to rehire. And therefore the demand increase from people getting jobs, because all the pent-up purchases only occur when a person gets their new job, thereby increasing demand and thereby enabling more hiring. That whole process is slower than it should be because too few employers want to take the risk. If this type of AI engine compatibility score existed, then job seeking would be much, much faster, and unemployment wouldn't be like a 1-year problem. It would be a 2-week problem for most people. So that was item number 1. Item number 2 is law enforcement. We keep hearing about how criminals are using AI to create deep fakes of CEOs and CFOs to then instruct junior employees to wire large sums of money to the hacker's account while impersonating the major customer of that company. See this article over here about how $34 million were stolen by a deep fake of the CFO. And eventually there will be a protocol in corporate workplaces where everyone has to prove their identity. Even the junior employee will have to call the CFO or CEO and ask them, are you on a Zoom with me right now, or is this not you? But that protocol was not in place first. And if you understand the power dynamic, the junior employee isn't going to question whether the CFO is really the CFO. How do I know you're really my CFO and you're not impersonating it? It's easy to say they should have had the presence of mind to do that, but if this is not a normal security protocol, you can't really expect the junior employee to have that type of confrontational approach with the CFO and CEO, even though after the fact of that theft, both the junior employee and the CFO probably wished that protocol were in place rather than lose that $34 million. Then why isn't law enforcement using artificial intelligence? Artificial intelligence could very well make it harder for police and FBI agents and other law enforcement to be corrupt, thereby attracting better people into law enforcement, people who actually want to fight evil versus who want to line their pockets through law enforcement, but also increase the scale and scope of policing by a lot. Let's say artificial intelligence can increase the amount of policing by 2x with the same number of police officers. So the city does not have to hire any more police officers, does not have to increase budget, but the amount of policing is 2x because AI is a tool that enhances many aspects of policing. Crime will fall 90% because crime is ultimately an estimation of what the criminal might get away with. And I don't mean impulsive crimes, but any premeditated crime, certainly organized crime. Organized crime is nothing but an estimation of how much of an organization can exist and how much extraction of money they can do without law enforcement putting in the resources to crush that particular organized crime. It's very much an estimation about how much they can get away with, an estimation of probabilities. If policing could increase by 2x through the use of AI, crime would fall 90%, which would be a very productive boom for the economy, because when someone is a victim of crime, not only is it psychologically damaging, but they spend so much time and distraction just trying to recover from that crime. If it was a theft, if it was an assault, something like that, many aspects of their entire life trajectory can be worsened if the crime is serious enough. And I don't mean just a bicycle or a smartphone being stolen, but if your car is stolen or if your bank account is hacked and $50,000 are stolen, for example. If you go to the police now, they are quite at ease saying we don't have the resources to investigate this particular crime. We limit ourselves to just looking at murders and other super serious crimes. But theft of $50,000 is something that the police will only do a police report for, and maybe 30 minutes of investigation, knowing full well they're not going to find out who did it, and then manage your expectation that the police can't really do anything for you. That is, of course, unacceptable. But artificial intelligence can do a lot for this. And remember, I always say government is a utility, which means that it should be seen as a function where you get more productivity per unit dollar. And that can include AI being used to increase police efficacy, because criminals are already using AI, and police, being government, are slower to adjust, which is a problem. But a world of much, much lower crime is certainly within reach if AI can increase just policing by 2x. That's all I ask, 2x productivity gain in policing. If it were 3x, 4x, it would be even more, but 2x would be fantastic and would end a lot of crime as we know it, and that crime would be a very, very infrequent thing. So that was number 2. Number 3 could improve the lives of everyone. Think of it this way. All dating and marriage is completely broken and dysfunctional now because all traditional methods of courtship and marriage are rendered obsolete. There is a single person marketplace. There are many people who are interchangeably in the single person marketplace looking for some casual interactions versus looking for someone serious. Sometimes the same person can pretend to be both based on who they meet or what the situation is. It's become a very low trust medium, right? And nobody's being well served by it. US marriage rate has plunged to not just an all-time low, but it has plunged tremendously in just the last 10 years. This is true in all advanced economies. Marriage is virtually over. The laws are also extremely unfair towards whoever is the better behaved participant of the two. Everything is super, super broken. But we cannot go back to the methods of the old days either, because that was also very restrictive. It treated people like commodities. It treated people like interchangeable cogs in a broader wheel. And it resided too low in Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You cannot have a prosperous society where everyone has all their basic needs met, but yet the approach to marriage still has to be as though we were in a society from 100 years ago, where marriage was mainly about escaping poverty and reproduction, and nobody even talked about being compatible with your spouse. That was a super luxury. If you were lucky, you had a 10% chance of that. Most of your parents, grandparents, and great-grandparents were married to people they were not compatible with. That was normal. But dating is so broken, like I said, you have the hookup apps and then the apps for people who are serious and so forth. And all of that cannot coexist within a social interaction medium because, like I said, nobody knows who is telling them the truth, who's trying to take advantage of them, and so forth. Now, artificial intelligence should be able to assess the personalities and priorities and value systems of a whole host of people into a different type of online pairing mechanism that gives people a compatibility score. If you're single and you're looking to get married to someone who's compatible with you, it should be able to tell you these are the 5 people who are 88, 90, 91, 92% compatible with you and likely to be so over a duration of a lifetime based on what the AI can estimate about all the other data that it has. And then after you have 5 or 6 such people with a high score, then you can also see their photos and if you also like them visually and so forth. Now, that should be relatively easy. It is not that hard of a task for AI. There's a social change that is needed as well. Remember, online dating was considered a shameful thing when it was new just because people didn't understand it and nobody was admitting to using it until the attractive women got on online dating and then it became normalized. And a similar thing will happen here. But this is something that is not very technologically hard from an AI perspective because you don't need 100% accuracy with this. Extremely few people are married to someone who they're even 88 or 90% compatible with. That is almost unheard of. So that would be an excellent outcome because while you do need 100% accuracy with self-driving cars and AI that might pilot passenger aircraft or AI that might be used to shoot missiles, you do not need 100% accuracy in something like this. 85% is excellent. And if an engine is trustworthy enough that it is giving you a good compatibility match, and yes, you talk to the person and so on, but at least a lot of very, very suspicious and time-consuming sorting can go away. This could save a lot of the social fabric of society if it were just matching up people that way. And not everyone has to get married, even just for normal hookups or something. The AI can sort this process out in a manner that is not so easily gamed the way that a lot of the hookup apps and things, which are deteriorating many aspects of society, psychologically, trust-wise, everything like that. So this should be one of the easier things that AI does and would improve the lives of younger people tremendously just because there is a certain compatibility mechanism that can save a lot of time. And it sounds fantastical, but technologically, like I said, that is not hard at all. The fit score that I described earlier for employer-employee matchup, 85, 90, 92% compatible employee with employer, the same concept can be applied in a dating and or marriage matchup type of AI as well. So none of these 3 things exist, even though all 3 would be a dramatic improvement in the quality of life of almost everyone. Almost everyone is affected by at least one of those three, but most people are affected by all of those three items, which AI has not made any meaningful improvement in at all. So before we get too excited about AI changing everything, these would be three things I would put on an AI wish list that should be grand challenges in terms of improving the human condition, or at least cutting out some of the biggest efficiencies that waste valuable time in everyone's lives in the modern age. Thanks for watching.